Thomas de Vlaam. I'm the founder and CEO of Amylon Therapeutics. My background is quite interesting. I originally went to medical school. I always wanted to be a surgeon, and I was on track. Unfortunately, I had to have surgery myself, so my spine was fused because my spine was all crooked. So they fused it, and I'm 1/3 titanium. It grew 10 centimeters in one day, so it was a nice growth spurt. But unfortunately, I had to give up my medical career. And the reason why I went into medicine was to help patients, and that's how I found my way into biotech. Started working at a company called ProQR, a Dutch biotech company, works on rare diseases in the RNA therapeutic space. And to make a long story short, my passion was in neurology, and they gave me the opportunity to use that passion and build a company in the inside and spin that out into a separate company, which I was able to do. It took me a couple of years and a lot of effort, but about 2 years ago, I launched Amylon as a separate company, focusing on rare neurological diseases with RNA therapeutics. So mentorship for me is crucial. I mean, I started becoming a CEO at 24 with very little education or experience, and so I had to learn everything on my own. And in the beginning, I thought that was a rite of passage to do everything independently. As I grew, and because I was able to do it in a different company, I started finding mentors who helped me. And as a child, I always dreamed of having a mentor relationship as it's shown in the movies or in television, where you've got this sage wisdom person who guides you through life. And that's what I aspired to have and looked for. As Amylon launched and I became an actual CEO, I was welcomed into the CEO community, which was a club I didn't know existed, and all of a sudden I was part of. And I was lucky enough to be selected as one of the fellows for the Tamir Fellowship Program in the legacy of Henry Tamir. And all of a sudden I had access to all these people who've done what I wanted to do multiple times over. And I found that a mentor can be any person at any given time. It's not one person encompassing all of life's lessons. It can be very specific pieces of advice on an actual problem for a company development perspective. And some people you find to become friends and personal advisors and people who you carry through within life. And I think as a CEO, it's a lonely job. And you're as they say, the buck stops with you. And so it's supposed to be, because you're the one that's supposed to carry the most weight. But the beauty of it is that binds CEOs together. So it's kind of like you've gone through the same trials and tribulations, and you understand. And I found that to be incredibly meaningful, but you have to open yourself up to it. So you have to be willing to go out and meet people, and it can be people of your same age, or it can be veterans and the highest people in industry, and just say, look, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to get here. How do I get there? And that's how you build that. And the funniest thing is that the biggest strength as a CEO comes from vulnerability, and it can teach you a lot and help you avoid problems that can easily be avoided just by asking. What's very important to realize about having a mentor and asking for advice is to understand that it's a two-way street. And as a young CEO or entrepreneur, what drives you is unbounded energy and ambition, and combined with a naivete that allows you to kind of see past all the barriers that are in front of you. And it is easy to get lost in trying to find answers for everything and just kind of taking as much in as possible like a sponge, and forget about the fact that the person you're talking to is also a human being, and by taking that time and getting involved with you is making a commitment. And it can be a very simple thing, or it can be a more prolonged relationship. But it's important to take asking for advice very seriously, because what you have to ask yourself is, if you approach someone for concrete advice, am I willing and able to follow up on this, or am I just trying to get the lay of the land? Because most people are committed to their advice, and then if you don't follow up with it, or if you throw it into the wind every single time, it's understandable that someone becomes dissatisfied and thinks, what's my use to you if you never take my advice seriously? And it's an easy thing to do. It can be an email saying, thanks for your advice. I talked to this and that person and it helped. Taking someone out to dinner, figuring out what's important to them. But mentor and mentee relationship is not one-sided, and that's something that a mistake I've made, and a mistake I see a lot of young people make, is that you're so busy with learning that you forget to give back. And it can be the slightest little thing, but it's such an important thing to foster a relationship for long term, rather than just getting what you need and destroying or burning that bridge right away. I unfortunately never got to meet Henry Tamir personally, other than in passing, and he's considered perhaps the founding father of our industry. And the message he has that lives vicariously through everyone he's mentored or helped in any way is that whenever you're in doubt, which happens a lot, is what's the best for the patient. And that is a true sage wisdom, and something that I've found that my closest mentors and friends, maybe not verbatim, but guided my way into realizing that every single time. And it makes my job, to a sense, very easy, because there are so many variables that come into play. But if you keep that as your true north, you'll never lose an hour of sleep in your life. And it might not work. You might end up destroying your company because the only way to push it forward is to think about value creation or a deal or a transaction. But if you keep that as your one and only true motive in times of question, I find that makes everything so much easier, professionally and personally. When it's a hard job, and when you've worked 100 hours a week and you sleep 3 hours a night, and you think, how the hell am I going to do this? And you think about those patients, then in perspective, it's nothing. CEO of a biotech company or a pharmaceutical company, it's in service of a goal that's greater than you. And you are also not necessarily the only one to be able to do that. It's the goal of any biotech company is to bring a medicine to the market that can change the life of sick people. I invented the therapy that Amylon is based around, but it already has far transcended my capabilities to develop. So I have to run the company, and that always in service of the patients. And I think that it's a humbling experience. At the same time, it comes with a much higher responsibility, and losing money is a lot different than losing people. But it's humbling because it means that at any given point you gotta make sure that you're the best person for the job, and you also gotta be aware that if you're not, that you be able to recognize that. Don't take yourself too seriously. And everything you're going through, all CEOs are going through. Even the most experienced veterans question themselves on a daily basis. And if you open that up to others and you talk to other CEOs or other experienced people, it's the most relaxing thing I've ever found. And that's the point where you can actually start learning. When you get over, or you get out of your own head and just put the question out there to people, you'll find that the answers are there and people are very eager to help. You'll still carry it all on your own shoulders, but at least you won't be alone in thinking about it.